Married,
And 1.
and then we were together for 5 years.
Good evening and welcome to the Monomoy Regional School District School Committee meeting for Wednesday, March 27th. I would like to call the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. And the next item on our agenda is our 2024 Superintendent Scholar Award. Dr. Carpenter?
All right, so I would like to announce that I will be awarding, using Zhao, our Superintendent's Award for Academic Excellence. This is an award that's given each year. We ask the guidance counselors to look at who is up towards the top of our class, who's involved in school, who's involved in the community. And this year, they unanimously came back with you as their recommendation for me, and wrote me a lovely statement. I don't know if you've heard it. A lot of this, I think, also comes from your counselors' letters. So if I can appropriately embarrass you for the next minute or two. So Yu Ying Zhao is one of the hardest working, most intelligent students who we've encountered. She consistently impresses with her intelligence, work ethic, and dedication to her studies and extracurricular activities. Yu Ying is the valedictorian of her class, a member of the National Honor Society, the Chinese National Honor Society. She has excelled in our AP program and has been designated as an AP Scholar with Honors. She has been the key member of the school's golf program throughout high school, spearheading the creation of Coding the Future Club, which seeks to help young women become interested in the field of computer science, providing a platform for learning, mentorship, and support. Through her efforts, computer science classes have grown in the number of women in them in just 2 years by 400%. She is also a peer tutor, patient and understanding, takes time to explain concepts in a way that students can understand. She encourages students to ask questions and demonstrate persistence. Overall, she's impressive. She's an impressive student with a strong academic record, commitment to community service, and a well-rounded personality. Yu Ying is one of the most talented mathematicians and one of the hardest working students that we have had the pleasure of teaching. She's intelligent, inquisitive, persistent, hardworking, and extremely self-motivated, honest, cooperative, mature, respectful, and has a wonderfully dry sense of humor, very comfortable in a rigorous learning environment. She's always a major contributor in class discussions, and her well-thought-out questions separate her deep level of understanding from the rest of the class. She loves helping others, and she understands the material so well that she's able to teach those who struggle with concepts. Yu Ying is a unique young woman who we're confident that her mathematical talents, her desire to learn, coupled with her disciplined work habits, and her self-driven and maturity will serve her well, especially at the college level. It is this distinctive combination of exceptional mathematical ability and outstanding habits of mind that truly set her apart from others, and she'll continue sharing those great strengths with others at Harvard University this coming fall. So congratulations. Much deserved.
Thank you.
Yu Ying, do you want to say anything?
It's like the Academy Awards.
So I've been in this school district for my entire life since preschool, and people have always thought that a public school is just like, I guess, less than like a private school. They can't get you as far, but this entire school district has helped me so much in the way that I've learned, the way that I know how to like carry myself. The teachers and like the faculty, they really helped me become who I am, because I came from a first generation like immigrant family, and I really didn't know how like American culture was until I came to this school district. And so you guys really helped me to become the person I am today. This work ethic, this personality, I guess, and this drive is all from the help of the teachers and faculty here. So I want to thank you guys for helping me achieve all of the things that you just listed. So thank you.
Congratulations. Any comments? It was perfect. You're free to go. Perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving right along to the approval of minutes from the March 14th, 2024 school committee meeting.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Perfect. All right, moving right along to public comment. Do I have anyone for public comment? Seeing none, we will move right to reports and discussion. First on the agenda is our MRMS siding and trim debt presentation. Mr. McMillan?
Good evening, school committee. Michael McMillan, the school business manager. So I had at last meeting possibly just flagged that this was a project we were looking at, and this is something we're going to talk to the school, the select boards of each town about the possibility of borrowing money to completely replace the siding and trim at the middle school. So I thought I would just give you some, the presentation essentially goes into a little bit more detail to that, and it requires a vote of the school committee if we are to proceed with it. So the replacement of siding and trim was identified as one of our priority capital projects, particularly it's become, we create our capital plan and the items change as, we get more information and more evidence and, material, the buildings progress and they deteriorate further, and the siding at the middle school and the trim is in significant disrepair. We have evidence of water infiltration and pests and rodents getting into the siding of the building, and that is amongst other things impacting the air quality inside the building. And in fact, we've had to move classrooms and we've had a lot of issues with air quality at the middle school, not only but in part due to the issues we believe we're having with the siding and trim. So we have been doing repairs. So we replace part of it, a small area, and we've been doing sort of ad hoc repairs as we go. But until the whole building is watertight, they have a limited effect, because you can stop water getting in here, but if it's getting in to the side, then it's not as effective as we'd hope. So there's a whole bunch of photographs that will be hopefully a little easier to see in your handout of the deterioration all throughout the building. And I have a couple of slides, a couple of pictures that I just highlighted here. I mean, you can see the gap here, which is particularly bad, and here as well, like the shingles have fallen off, and you can actually see it's hard to see there, but you can see right through to the building wrap. So, and there's, as I showed on this last slide, there's instances of this throughout the building, and we had started, so we had in the budget initially funds to start doing more repairs of this. And I was speaking to our facilities director and looking at our options, and I kind of ran some numbers, and I realized we could, if we borrowed to replace do the entire building, the cost of repaying the debt would not be much more, would actually be slightly less than we had budgeted for the repairs. So it seemed like that would be a good option, and so that's why we're proposing this project today. We would remove all the existing siding and trim and the building wrap that goes underneath that. We would install high quality waterproof building wrap and new weather resilient trim and siding. We have had an estimate, and based on that we've estimated the total cost of the project would be around $2,500,000. Have any questions so far? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I was just wondering what made it less than doing the little repairs?
Just because so we'll borrow for $2.5 million, and then assuming a certain percentage interest, paying off the principal and interest every year, which was just less than, 20, because if we do over 20 years, the interest and principal on $2.5 million loan over 20 years is going to be a little less than we'd budgeted, over $300,000 for repairs, but we could do the whole thing, which would, the whole thing will obviously cost more than that, but we're paying it off over 20 years, so we get to spread the cost over 20 years, even though there's interest, it still works out as less. So do one part at a time as an impact on the budget.
Thank you.
I mean, overall it'll be more, but just for one, and if we kept doing that for 10 years, we'd have done the whole building, but it would have, so this is the proposed project. So in order to borrow, so the plan would be to borrow money, to borrow the financing, the funds for the project. And just as we do with the high school then, so the way the high school works would be the same way as that every year as part of the assessment, we have 4 part segments of the assessment. One part is debt, and it's assessed to the towns based on foundation enrollment as the 3-year average foundation enrollment each year. So that would just be rolled in as part of the assessment to the towns every year. And it was included in the FY24. It was one of the items we included on the FY24 budget. Sorry, FY25 assessment. So for example, this year the debt was split between Harwich and Chatham, 76.8% for Harwich and 23.2% for Chatham. That's the average of foundation enrollment for the last 3 years. That changes each year, but in each year we'll go through the calculation again.
Michael, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I think you just said this, but just for my brain.
Yeah.
So this is a project that we will borrow money and then pay back like the high school instead of money coming from the towns? Directly?
So yes. So
Okay,
$2.5 million, we'll go out and borrow off the market somewhere. So like, Bank of America or Cape Cod 5 or somebody will give us $2.5 million, and then we'll pay them back
It'll be our
over
loan.
20 years.
It would be the district's loan.
Yes, exactly. So this is all through the district. So, and I'm just about to come on to the
sorry.
MGL. No, there is a whole process under Mass General Law for borrowing, which I'll give you a bit more detail. But it's the district receiving and then paying back the funds. So we receive them and then we'll pay them back. And we'll pay them back by money we receive from the towns in the assessments.
But do we still need approval from the towns?
All right, that I will come
Okay,
to.
sorry. Jumped the gun. Sorry.
But yes, that's a good question. So the process that we have outlined that we're aiming for is that we get through the approval process between now and the town meetings. Then once that's approved in July, we would start the design of the building and the design of the project, and that would give us the basis for the procurement, hopefully into the fall, so we can start the construction in 2025. So all things being equal, and with nothing else to do, we should be good for 2025. So part of the plan, and I've been discussing this with our bond council, is we would issue the debt once we do the procurement for the construction, because at that point we'll have an idea of exactly how much the project's going to cost. But we're getting approval from you, hopefully, and from the towns to issue up to $2.5 million. But if it came in under that, we would not. So you were authorised to borrow up to that much, but we'll just borrow as much as required for the project. So approval. So under Mass General Law, there are actually, I think, there's one in here. Yeah. Did I put
Pardon
it
me,
in?
Michael.
Yes.
We have a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. You folks probably figured that our middle school needs a new roof also.
Yes.
And everything seems to be around $2 million.
Yeah, well.
That's too many.
Yeah.
Would it not be, and I guess the answer is no,
Well.
more effective and short-range benefit to have done both projects and make it one major project, including siding and the roof?
So yes, probably to do both at the same time, although it would be different companies, because generally, and I haven't actually gone out and tried this, but generally, it's one company. Different companies do siding than do trim. I could do roofs and do siding and trim. However, that said, it might still have been a good idea. The problem is that we want to apply to the Massachusetts School Building Authority to do the roof. They will not fund siding and trim replacement. They'll do the roof, windows and boilers. So we want to go to them to do a project to replace the roof of the middle school with the MSBA and get the money back from them. However, we've got to get into that project first. And we failed. We didn't get in last year. We've applied this year. We may get in this year, in which case we will be able to go ahead with both projects at the same time. But if we don't, then we'll be pushing out for another year. And the condition of the middle school roof, despite some issues we've had, is actually not terrible condition. And I'm comfortable waiting another couple of years if we have to replace it. We're doing a great job doing, we have a company, we do ongoing and regular repairs on the roof. And so we don't have a great deal of evidence of water coming in through the roof right now because we keep patching it whenever we find issues. Can't say the same thing about the siding. So when I look at the siding, I'm more concerned about the siding, and I'm not comfortable waiting for the MSBA to start funding the project for us to get there. If it takes another couple of years, I think that's okay for the roof. I'm more worried about that for the siding and trim. So in a perfect world, yeah, we would just do it all at once, but I don't want to wait for the roof before we do the siding and trim. Because just when I see those things like those holes and the tiles falling off and I can see through to the building, that just makes me, I want to resolve that now. And so either we carry on doing these ad hoc measures, we could carry on doing ad hoc measures until we get on the roof, but then we're throwing money, because we're going to have to do it all eventually anyway, and so we're throwing that money down, for short-term fixes.
And speaking of the money, the couple of slides earlier, you broke down the student enrollment, 76%.
Yeah.
That's the figure the town of Howard and Chatham will break out to pay for this.
But that's how much they are paying for each. So every year it will change because it's assessed, it's calculated as part of their assessment, and so every year. So what I do with right now for the high school, when I'm preparing the assessments, I find out how much we are due to pay for principal and interest on the high school loan, and then I look at the 3-year average of foundation enrollment, and we split out those payments between Chatham and Harwich. And then next year, we do it again, and every year that foundation enrollment number changes. So, in all likelihood, if numbers continue, they'll change slightly, and sometimes in favour of Harwich, sometimes in favour of Chatham, but it's reassessed every year for the amount that's owed that year.
Thank you, Michael.
Ms. Gaines?
Yeah, just for clarification, I think I'm understanding. So you said about the assessment, I'm just reading this other piece of paper.
Yeah.
So you said you went in front of the town, so the
Yep.
select board, and then it says they have 60 days. So this goes to town meeting? Okay.
Here's our slide.
Okay.
So there's actually two ways you can, so under Mass General Law, there are two ways that the school committee can choose to do, to get authorization for debt. So one is you can call an election, like a vote of all the residents in both towns. So that's one option. The other option is if you take a vote and notify the select boards, then they have 60 days to disapprove it. And if they don't disapprove it, then it goes ahead. So those are the two options. Election, vote of residents or notification to the select board. So we are recommending we notify select board, so we don't have to spend money and time running elections for votes. So that means we're going down the route of notifying the select board. So the way it works under MGL, this is all subject to your approval, but the way it works is that you take this vote, and if you simple majority vote in favour of it, then we send notification to the select boards. And under Mass General Law, if they don't disapprove the action within 60 days, so by which to do that they have to have a vote at town meeting disapproving it. So if they haven't disapproved it, then it goes through and we can go ahead and issue the debt. However, what we have recommended to the select boards is that they take a positive vote. So rather, we didn't want to put the select boards in the position of, having to disapprove it. We wanted to talk to them, make sure they were on board with it, and recommended to them that they put it in town meeting for a favourable vote. So not just that it's not been disapproved, but it's actively been approved. And so that's what both town meetings are proposing to do, which is submit it on their town meeting for a vote to approve it. So
just for clarification, so
Yeah.
it will be a separate article?
it is a separate
Okay,
article
that's
at
what
town
okay.
meeting.
Thank
And so
you.
and I apologise that the timing is a little funky here, but I didn't want, if you had voted more than 60 days before town meeting, the towns would have had to call a separate town meeting in order to disapprove it if that's what they wanted to do. So in order to be aligned with their timing of the timing of the approval and their town meetings, we had to make sure they were on board, then then ask you to vote, and then send them notification. So that it's all done within 60 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We just didn't want to put them in a position of, having to, being forced into a corner. So we
Right.
wanted their positive support.
Dr. Carpenter?
And I think in addition, we also wanted to make sure that there was just full transparency, with all, that, that everybody understands that this is what we're doing. Just one last little, sort of a bit of information. As Terry and I are the last survivors here on the building committee to build this building, I can't remember, how many hours were spent talking about envelope, this building's envelope. And the reality is, we have a really great building in that middle school. And, some of the pictures that Michael is showing you is the envelope's been breached. And, the more water we let get into those walls, the more chance of mold, the more chance of, rodent infestations. And we don't want to have to go piecemeal, anytime a teacher complains about mold and we're going and ripping a section of wall out and having to re-side and then going to wait for the next complaint. Let's go get that building envelope sealed, get the walls done, get the trim done, get the roof done, hopefully with MSBA support, and have that building last another 50 years. So not have it deteriorate to the point that Harwich High School was at, where we're having to demolish a building and then pay even more money to go, build a middle school. Like, we've got a great middle school, let's keep it great.
Yeah. So the next step, the next step would be for you, if you're in favor of this, there's two motions. The first is to approve the debt, and the second is to instruct your school committee clerk to notify the select boards. And this information has all been provided by our bond counsel, so I consulted with them to provide this wording and this information on this process. So that's it. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Do I have a motion? Ms. Finnegan?
I move that the amount of $2,500,000 is appropriated for renovating and reconstructing the exterior siding of the Monomoy Regional Middle School, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the district treasurer, with the approval of the chair of the committee, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16, subsection D, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the district therefore.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay,
Thank you very much. There's another one.
yep. Do I have another motion? Ms. Gaines?
I'd like to make a motion that within 7 days following the date of this vote, the school committee clerk is directed to give written notice of the amount of the debt authorized by this vote and of the general purposes for which it was authorized to the Select Board in Chatham and the the Select Board in Harwich.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? I have one question.
Yes.
What if it costs more than $2,500,000?
So it will depend how much more. So if when we go out to bid it is, so there's kind of, I guess there's three options. One is if it's so much more expensive, it's like, okay, all bets are off. We need to go back to the drawing board
Okay.
and come up with a new plan. Like if it was $4 million. If it is,
Let's hope not.
yeah, if it's a small amount, then it may be we'll look at see whether we can use part of our building stabilization fund or of our operating budget if we have any surpluses there, and then that would be a conversation with the school committee. And if it's somewhere in the middle and we still think it's worthwhile, then we would go back to the towns to approve or to notify them again and talk to them about the process to increase the amount of debt that we'd issue.
Okay.
So there's kind of three options, use a lot of the general fund to help offset it, which we would discuss with you, or issue more debt, or cancel the project.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. All right, you're sticking
Yes.
around. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is our transportation contract overview.
So I actually don't have slides for this one, I apologize. So I just wanted to give you a kind of overview of where we are with our transportation contract right now, because it is up for renewal. And we've started that process, and it will come to you for a vote. So I wanted to give you kind of an advance warning of the discussion. So we have been in contract with Cape Cod Collaborative for 5 years to provide transportation. That's the big buses, the big yellow buses, and this is all in district, yellow buses and the small yellow buses for pre-K and special education. They also do a lot of our athletics when they can and our field trips. And that's all under an agreement that has been in place for about almost 5 years. So prior to this contract, we contracted with Cape Destinations then, and they provided the transportation through a competitively tendered contract. So there was some controversy around the move from Cape Destinations to the collaborative. So there was a lot of discussion, and then at that point, I wasn't privy to all of it, but I just know that there was a lot of discussion and there were some problems and some concerns raised. However, that all said, although I wasn't here for that, I do think collaborative have been great, and working with the collaborative has been a good experience. The collaborative, so strictly speaking, the collaborative is a public organization, and the best way to think of it is like an extension of the district. So it's not private sector, and really it's, legally when we do all our finances, it's like we're giving money to ourselves. And I mean, we're not, but it's like, it's like that. So when this contract's up for renewal, legally, we could just continue using the collaborative. We don't have to go out for bids. We don't have to do any kind of procurement, because it's like an in-house solution. So, however, that said, since it's 5 years, we wanted to go out to bid just to make sure the district's still getting the best value for money from the contract. So we have issued an invitation for bids, and requesting bids for organization or companies or to provide transportation for 3 years plus 2 extension years if we choose to continue with them. So a total possible 5 years of providing the transportation for the district. So we have had some interest. So we had our pre-bid meeting with our vendors last week or earlier this week, and we had 3 vendors there. So the collaborative was there because they're going to give us a quote again to continue doing the work. And also we had representatives from 2 other firms, both Cape Destinations and Lucini, another organisation who provides transportation to school districts on the Cape, actually. So that's encouraging that we have interest. The bids are due April 8th. We will then do some, checking and reviewing of the bids, and then we'll come to you for approval of the of the contract, however we decide to go, or however we recommend that we go. The challenge will be, you know, there's a bunch of challenges with this. So my primary concern, and I said this at the pre-bid meeting, my primary concern, more than money, I don't like to say that very often, but more than money is the buses have to run. We have to be able to get students to school. And vehicles are great, but everybody on the Cape and beyond is struggling to get bus drivers. So when reviewing these bids, a primary concern of mine will be that they are able to provide the workforce to be able to provide the service. So that will be our biggest concern. Price will also be part of it. And one of our questions will be, well, how much cheaper does the bid have to be to make it worthwhile to leave the collaborative? So normally, in a normal circumstances, you just take the lowest bid. As long as they meet the criteria, you take the lowest bid. And it can be, if it's lower by $50, it's lower by $50. That said, if it's lower than the collaborative than $50, I mean, overall, it might not be worth our while to leave the collaborative for a small gain, given the kind of transitional costs of having to move to a different vendor. So that's something we'll keep it, that's a sort of, I'm just kind of floating issues that may come up when the time comes to review the bids and present information to you. So we'll have to ensure that they're able to deliver the service, review the costs to the district, and then make the decision that's in the best interest of the district. So the collaborative are going to submit a bid. They're going to do, review, check all their numbers for the next 5 years and give us the best, estimate of the costs that they can, and that's what we'll compare the other bids to. So I just wanted to make sure you all are aware of this process that's going on before we come back April 11th to review the results of the bid process.
Thank you. Any questions? Jess?
I just wanted to let the committee know that I'm the liaison for the Cape Cod Collaborative, so if you have any questions about what they've done with transportation or their recruiting, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. I know that they are really working hard to, bring bus drivers on board and make sure that they're being competitive. And also a lot of their office staff is trained to drive buses too, just in case, so they can pop people in. So any questions, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? All right.
All right,
Thank
fantastic.
you for the update.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving right along, we have a few policies for our first read. And although we won't take the time to read them all, Ms. Gray will give us an overview.
So we met as a committee about a week and a half ago, and we are working on updating a few of the policies. And so the first one here is the relations with non-public schools. Changes are here in red. And again, just ask you guys to take a quick peek. There's only 2 areas that have additional input. Nothing major here. And then let me know if you have any questions so far.
Just a little, I think, grammatical. So in accordance with state law, the school committee will approve a private school when. So I think we just want to
Take that out. Thank
write
you.
out one of those.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that one yet? Okay. All right. The next policy is the athletic trips, and this is the field trip policy that has been divided into 3 different policies. So this is a lot of work. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, many other people involved. And there's a lot of red throughout some of these. We have tried to make these policies consistent across the 3 policies so that certain pieces read the same in terms of types of permission that might be needed, the types of trained staff that should be out on the field trips. So I will give you a moment to review this first one.
So
Ms. Finnegan?
on B, this is on the second page, number 8B, it says, "All efforts will be made for late-night trips to use commercial motor coaches for trips over 150 miles." It's not really clear. Is it for both and/or? So all efforts will be made for late-night trips to use commercial motor coaches for trips over 150 miles.
Late-night trips that are over 150 miles.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
No. Because it seems like two separate things, for late-night trips and/or for, perhaps it could be and/or for trips over 150 miles.
I see what you're saying. All right, we'll have to get clarification on that. I read that as one thing, but I get you, yeah.
Yeah, they
It could
wouldn't
be either
necessarily
one.
be the same.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this one?
I was just wondering, with the first page with number 2, it says B, all appropriate medical forms are completed, and then C is authorization and acknowledgement of risks and medical authorization. So I wasn't sure if it was two different things or if it's,
So, is it okay? Aye.
Oh, yes, please go right ahead. I was like,
So my understanding from what Melissa said is that there's a whole field trip procedure that anyone that is taking a group of students on a field trip needs to go through the checklist of this procedure, and then this is the policy. So the policies align with the procedure, but the procedure is really more of that breaking it down and having the nurse make sure that, you know, everybody's authorized to go and the medications are, so
so then the medical authorization form is separate from the other medical forms?
yeah.
yes.
Okay, that was all I was wondering. Thank you.
Is my understanding.
No other questions?
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm just trying to see if it's in here. So I know that it's come up, kudos to all of our teams that make tournaments, like, you know, and when they're having to go. Is that, and I know that there was a question that came up this last year, and I don't know if we need it in writing or if it's okay, like the superintendent might approve a tournament, like everybody's going, if you make the Final Four, whatever. I don't know if that needs to be in writing. I just know that that was, we got a lot of questions about it last year.
I thought we had talked about that.
Oh,
in the
did-
policy.
in
We
the
did.
policy you did? Was
I'm
that,
not sure where it's written, but I know we had talked about that.
is it in here? I was just seeing if it was.
so that would kind of fall under that same piece that Scotty was talking about. All efforts will be made for late night trips to use commercial motor coaches for trips over 150 miles, because one of the things that came up last fall was that it was the
Yeah.
distance that some of the
Right.
teams were going. So,
I think, yes for that, and when they reach the, say, the Final Four or whatever,
That's exciting.
even, yes, it's very but it may not be 150 miles, it might be,
Right.
but it's that nice, you know, I don't know if that needs to be in writing, or is that just a special little perk that the superintendent says, congratulations, you get.
I think where we, where we landed on that is just, we wanted to make sure that there was equity between
Yes.
a boys' team and a girls' team, that boys soccer, if boys soccer is getting a coach bus to go to their Final Four or whatever,
Right.
that girls' field hockey should be getting the same, and again, it was just trying to be clear that, that just because one set of parents are being very vocal, we need to make sure that there's equity there.
Exactly.
And I do think that I think the athletic department and the high school principal felt that there should be some sort of reward, if we want to call it that, for those teams that make it deep into the tournament to have a little nicer transportation. And we were just making sure that we're doing the same for both boys and girls.
Okay. And I just didn't know if it needed to be in the policy, and I might be wrong on this, but it seems like girls softball came back on a school bus when they were, so I guess I don't know if it needs to be a policy, because that came up too, and I don't know if we just need to be clear that if you make the Final Four or whatever, that everybody gets it, because I just know girls softball came back on a school bus.
So why don't we bring it back? We have to bring it back to policy anyway to clarify the late night piece, so we'll just add that just to make sure that we are crossing our Ts and dotting our Is.
And I do think that is B. I think that's the whole thing.
Yes.
So.
Yep.
Okay.
The next policy is the field trips draft. And again, a lot of the language that you saw in the first policy is repeated in here.
So the field trips is connected directly to curriculum, and that's why, one of the reasons why this one policy was broken into so many different ones, because we wanted to separate the standards-based curriculum field trips from the international field trips, from the athletic field trips, because there's some other requirements in this one that are not in the others, so.
I have just a question under, I guess this is page 2, under chaperone disclosures. I'm just curious, I don't know if anybody has an example. Municipal employees shall comply with the conflict of interest law. Is there an example of why? I mean, I'm just curious what the conflict of interest would be for municipal employees, like how, I'm just curious, does anybody have an example of how that might apply? Chaperone disclosures under page 2.
So we have chaperones fill out when they chaperone for an international trip. There's, so when Dustin was here last school committee meeting, if you look through the Galapagos thing, there was a price on how much an adult, not necessarily chaperone, but how much an adult, like the value of that. So there's a value to going on a trip, but they're also providing a service. So so there's a disclosure there that we, so each of those chaperones that are going on these international trips are disclosing, and it comes to my office, we understand that they're providing us a service, but it's just trying to be in compliance with the, with the ethics laws on, on disclosing that there is that, there is something that they're getting.
Right.
But there's also something
that they're
giving.
Yes, I get it.
They're giving a week of their time.
Right, so it won't come across as a gift? Is that what it is? Okay, all right, I got it. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this field trip policy? All right, so moving on to the international one. Any questions on that one?
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the sensitivity and the language of this.
It's important to make sure that we're covering all our bases. And then the last policy, I think the last policy? Yeah.
Domestic late night or overnight trips.
Yeah.
Just a quick,
Yes, Ms. King.
just a question, I don't know, maybe this was in others too. On this one, domestic late night, page 1, on the water, I guess HIJKL, is there, because I know that this comes up in like summer rec programs, so there's a waiver or an approval for swimming. I mean, I know it doesn't happen a lot, but is there a, like, what if somebody is signing, you know, a waiver, but the kid can't swim? So I guess, I don't know, it just, I don't know, it makes me a little nervous, because I know with the rec or the summer programs, there is a swim test. Not saying we should have a swim test, I just want to make sure that, I just don't want to see a child get the waiver because they want to be there and maybe, you know, whatever, and then they really can't swim, and then they're in a situation where, I don't know, it's just kind of jumped out at me. So I don't know how to resolve that, other than just for us to make sure that the child can swim.
Or even to make sure that those chaperoning that trip
Yeah,
are able to do that and
Yes.
watch those folks quite
Yes.
closely. I'm with you, that's the scariest thing in the
Yeah.
world.
We did talk about
Yeah.
that.
yeah, okay.
And it doesn't happen very often.
Right,
But if
it's
you're at a
rare,
hotel that
but
has a
yeah.
pool, you got to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
don't want an accidental shoving into the pool and then,
Right,
Nope.
Yeah.
Thank you.
right.
yeah.
Well, that was neither a waiver or approval.
That's true. So I know these are a lot to take in. The administration did a lot of work to really break it down and make sure that, you know, when our students are leaving the towns under our supervision, that we're really making sure that these policies are in place to protect our kids and any chaperones or staff that are attending. So we're going to bring one back to policy. We'll bring the athletic one back to policy, and the others will come for a second read. So we have a couple weeks to peruse them again, just in case there's any other questions. And policy is meeting next week. So if you have any dire questions as you read over the weekend, let us know.
And we're going to bring this one back, too.
Oh, we're going to bring the domestic late night and overnight trips back to policy too.
That has the same language that Tina was asking about.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Are we okay to move right along? To subcommittee meetings, representatives, and liaison reports. Negotiation subcommittee.
So the negotiations subcommittee continues to meet, and we met today to discuss our meeting with Unit C on Monday.
Perfect. Any questions? Comments? Great. Policy subcommittee reporting out.
You just got the whole shebang just a few moments ago. So we are meeting again in a week, and we will continue to work on these.
Excellent. Moving right along to the superintendent's report.
Just two quick things. I know that Joy and Cheryl Defoe were working today. Desi's put out just new guidelines when it comes to colds and COVID. So Dawn is the you must stay home for 5 days. And reading through the guidelines, it reminds me of, we're at back to what I would call preschool days, where I couldn't drop Rory or Darby off if they had a fever for 24 hours, until they were 24 hours free of the fever without using like Tylenol. So that's, you see that in there, and then the recommendation that when you return to normal activities for the first 5 days, that that you mask. But it's, we've kind of come that full circle now when it comes to COVID, and the state's really just talking about all illnesses, not just COVID, because it's, we still have lots of teachers and staff that are getting hit with whatever the respiratory bug is at any given time. Also, when it comes to public safety, Saturday, the first responders in Chatham and Harwich, in conjunction with a number of our administrative team and a number of our staff, will be holding drills here at the high school. So we have the building closed down to the public because there'll be drills to really help the first responders work through how to respond to crises in our buildings, with a number of our staff participating in those so that will be, so that'll be happening from pretty much 9 to 1:30 on Saturday. I volunteered to be the person who will not be moving well. And,
Oh, wow, and how to get you out. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I do greatly appreciate that we have first responders in both towns, both Chatham and Harwich Police and Fire, who are very committed to the safety of our kids, and who are going to be putting in the time to practice in our buildings. And I know that the whole concept of what they're practicing for scares me, parents, but it's really important that they do this, and I appreciate them taking the time.
Great. Any questions? All right, so we did bring back the Monomoy Regional High School trip to the Galapagos Islands for February 2025 for a vote. So do I have a motion? Ms. Gregg?
I would like to make a motion to approve the Monomoy Regional High School trip for February 2025, the EF tours to the Galapagos Islands.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. And then our second reading of the 2024-2025 Monomoy Regional School District school calendar. And there have been no changes since our first read. So if I have a motion? Ms. Gregg?
I would like to make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 Monomoy Regional School District school calendar.
A second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. We have had the presentation of warrants tonight, so I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we will adjourn at 7:29.